Are you wanting to create a highly prosperous photography business doing what you love? Or maybe you have a great business already and want to up your game? Then you're in the right place. Master craftsman photographer Lucy Dumas and her guests are here to support you on your journey. Now here's your hostess and tour guide, Lucy.
It's still magic, even if you know how it's done. And that is a quote by Terry Pratchett. And I am super excited that you're listening to my show today, The Profitable Photographer. That's how you pronounce it. And I'm so excited to have a chat with my guest because Chris and Lori are partners in crime in their business in Texas. Before I get started, I just want to remind you to go to lucydumascoaching.com if you want to learn more about me, my coaching, if you want to book a quick chat about anything. I'd be happy to review your website or your pricing, or have you call and tell me why you love this show. So I'm a words of affirmation, love language person. So please share your thoughts. All right.
Awesome.
So my guest today, and his lovely wife will jump in at some point, is Chris Fritchie. He is a master craftsman, artist, CPP. He's been in business over 16 years. He's had a few magazine covers, 150. And he's created the magic of Santa, and we'll talk about that. He's an ambassador for H&H Color Lab, Intuition Backgrounds, Lead Savage, and he'll be teaching at Shutterfest, Texas School, and Wyoming State Conference. Is that all?
Arkansas as well. So they asked us to come speak. So
great.
We'll be judging in Wyoming, and we'll be judging in Arkansas. And I do very little judging, so
that's fun.
It'll be fun making some even more enemies, as I say.
Good. Well, I was going to call you a slacker, but so I like to know just a little bit about how my guests got into photography, without it being the whole hour.
Sure.
So how did you end up in the world of photography?
It was really simple. Probably my girls were probably newborn. So about 30 years ago, I ran a landscape business. I had a partner, and we had 52 employees in East Texas Lawn and Landscape. And we were building a really unique website. If you think about 30 years ago on websites, there weren't very many websites. And we needed images for our portfolio and to go on the website. And I wish I knew his name, but there was a photographer in Tyler, Texas that was supposedly the best photographer around. And I called him and I got pricing. And 30 years ago, he wanted, I told him what I needed photographed, some of our projects. And it was, $1,500 or $2,000. And that was a lot back then. And I just said, man, I just can't afford that. So, and I don't know, we probably could have afforded it, but it was just like, man, I said, I'll just go buy myself a nice camera. And so, I was like everybody else, like, oh, I'm not paying those prices for photography.
Right.
So long story short, that's how I got started and shot some film. Very little. I never really, and the camera was never in manual mode. Shot some film, and there's an image from the very first roll I shot that is on my dresser of my daughters sitting in an azalea bed behind our house that we had. If we had a landscape business, we had a decent landscape in our house. And so that image, the original printed image, is in a frame sitting in my bedroom. Probably my most favorite image. And when I captured that image, a little bell kind of went off that, you know what, I could do this. And then long story short, maybe 10 years later, a friend had seen some of my images and said, hey, I need some pictures to put on my website. He's a musician. I said, yeah, sure. And dug out the gear, and it didn't work. So he handed me a little pocket digital camera. I didn't even know what a digital camera was. And we shot some images. And up until probably 3 years ago, he still used all those images on his website. So that's how I got started.
Well, the rest is history.
Yep.
Now, so Lori, your wife's Lori, is that right?
Yes.
Did I get it
Yep.
right? So did you go into business together? Did she have a
No,
business? How did
no,
that?
it's a funny story. She and I met, we were neighbors, next door neighbors. She was married, I was married, played golf with her husband. There was no funny business. I moved away, they moved, and we both then went through a divorce, and she found me on match.com. And at the time I was, even when I met her, I was a photographer. I was shooting for a local magazine. And I think I asked her daughter to pose for a couple of things like that. And Lori was kind of what I would call a shoot and burn photographer, part-time hobbyist. Yeah, I think the statute of limitations has ended. I was pretty new to the photography world when I met her, and chatting with her, I learned that she knew how to do Photoshop. So
Oh.
she got me a pirated copy of Photoshop. So and she got me that, and then I don't know how many years later it was. It was probably, I don't know. I need to think. We've been married 12 years. So it was probably 17, 18 years ago that we met.
And
so
again, the rest is history.
She was a teacher, high school principal. And then about 5 years ago, it's really simple. It was when the Florida shooting took place, school shooting. And I told her, I said, you know what? It just stresses me out too much for you to, what they pay you, for you to take the bullet for a kid or something like that. Cause she would protect those kids with her life. And I just said, it stressed me out too much, because she was the one doing all the discipline at the high school. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to have to hire somebody part-time anyway. Why don't you just come to the studio when your contract ended? And she's been here now about 5 years.
Great. Okay. So somewhere you had written in the questionnaire that you were all about chasing magic.
Sure.
So what kind of magic do you chase?
Boy, we chase all kinds. You know, one of the people always ask me, and usually not photographers, oh, what is it that you love to shoot? And I'll say, whatever it is, it gives me the biggest check I can get.
Okay, but you have a strong specialty, so let's.
I do. So
let's talk about that.
My point is, to me, magic is chasing what you love, and if you don't get paid for it, you can't do it unless it's a hobby. So obviously, for anyone that knows us, it's Santa. That is our bread and butter. That's what keeps the lights on. And we trademarked the term "the magic of Santa" probably 5-6 years ago. Okay.
So what makes your portraits of Santa so special and magical, and where someone will invest thousands?
Right. You know, it's that's a great question. What we have found is, and everyone says this in the photography industry, oh, you got to make it experience. You got to make it an experience. And I personally believe what sets us apart is that we truly know how to make it an experience. It's a skit, it's a show, it's a production with myself and Santa. And the reason that so many of our clients come back year after year after year is for that experience. The kids just talk about it for days with mom, and then the benefit is they get great images. So for us, it's about creating a great experience, creating great images, and then giving it to something that they can cherish for the rest of their life. A product for us is an album, wall portrait, that type of thing.
So describe the experience.
You know, for the kids, they come in and Santa's usually right there. But the big part of us is I'm kind of the Grinch in our experience.
Okay.
So our experience is really about the kids are at Christmas Eve, and they're either in their home or lately we've been doing it more where they're at the North Pole and they're in Santa's living room. And so they're surprised that Santa's there. And the whole story is it real or was it magic through this whole experience? But I kind of become the antagonist with Santa, where I needle Santa. And it's really a psychology to get the kids to connect to Santa, because what kid doesn't love Santa, and what kid doesn't want to protect Santa? So it's something, whether I'm calling the kids over to me at the camera, I make them get up and leave sitting next to Santa, and I whisper in their ears that, hey, how do we know if this is the real Santa? he could be an imposter. And so there's some little games like that that we play. So then Santa then knows to say, hey, what are y'all talking about over there?
Mm.
And then it's a lot of fun when you've got a 7 or 8 year old kid and they turn around and I go, well, Santa, you know what Johnny just said? And Santa, because we do this more than once, Santa will say, well, no, what did Johnny just say? And I go, Johnny just said he doesn't think you're the real Santa. And of course, the kids didn't say that.
Yeah.
And so then the kids start arguing with me. I didn't say that. I just, oh, yes, you did. You said it. Santa, they said it.
Are you photographing them while all this is going on?
No, because they're actually here standing by me. And we're
Okay.
having this little back and forth. And
Okay.
it takes 20 or 30 seconds. And then I'll say to Santa, well, Santa, I think they need to do the magic Santa test. And Santa will say, that's a great idea. And then I'll ask them, do you know what the magic Santa test is? And we've had kids say things such as, you check his underwear for his name? Yeah, no, Johnny, that's not it. And so that's where we have them go pull on Santa's beard. And that's usually the first moment in the session where Santa says, I know y'all didn't say that. That's why he's on top of the naughty list. And they go, oh, he's really on the naughty list? Oh yeah, Santa's. And so we just do some different things like that. And some of the things we keep a little secret. There's a part of the session where the children actually believe they saved Christmas for all the boys and girls, and they just go home for days talking about that. They find mom and dad's name on the naughty list, and oh, trust me. So sometimes that fails. That's a miserable failure when it doesn't go right. Because we've had some kids, we've lost some kids in some sessions where they won't stop crying because they're on the naughty list. And it's terrible. The parents love it and it's beautiful, but on the flip side, Santa does it right there. He puts their name on the nice list and everything, and it's rare, but it's those type of things that we do in sessions that engage the parents. And because now the kids are saying, well, why are you on the naughty list, Mom? And so we get all kinds of funny answers. And but there's a string of things like that we do.
So how long is a session on average, and how many do you do?
Typically it's about 45 minutes. Okay. We have found that you go much longer than that and you do lose the children. We have found that the average average attention span for your kids that can really do well is 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay.
We have something we did this year that was just fantastic is we put a foosball game and a Mrs. Pac-Man game when the kids enter. And if the kids are a little nervous, like a lot of them are, Santa will go over there and play Miss Pac-Man with the kids. And after it's done, he'll play with the kids and do some fun things that, how cool would it be if I had the memory of playing Miss Pac-Man with Santa Claus? So just some little fun things like that. And that's, I should add, for those that don't know, my students know, that's really only one of our Santa programs, because we also have a volume Santa. So during Santa season, we have about 6 different Santas that work for us. So we have the typical mall Santa where we do 600 or 700 sessions. And we have 3 different Santas. And then we have this Magic of Santa experience in our studio.
Great. Now, I'm sure by looking at your work, by the way, if people have not gone to Magic Maker's studio and looked at their work, you're going to be gobsmacked. I love that word.
Thank you.
So I assume that then you take it into Photoshop and create even more magic. Do you do that both for the mall?
No, the volume Santa is straight out of the camera. And it was a pretty, I like to think, pretty smart thing that we did. This is our second year to do it. We had an opportunity to take over a program for our local city that was running it. And we thought, well, gosh, and a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to offer that type. I don't want to do they get the digital files and they do that. I'm a complete opposite believer on that on some level. What I believe is every person should have the ability to get portraits of them made, whether it's a family portrait, a wedding, a newborn, Santa, high school seniors. So I embrace the shoot and burn photographer. If that's the business model that works for them and it's truly a business model, then good. there are people that can't afford or just don't value spending $4,000 or $5,000 on Santa pictures, but they truly value having their kids see Santa. So there needs to be a McDonald's and there needs to be a Ruth Chris Steakhouse.
Sure.
So we just have to figure out which client fits in which one. So
It
no,
sounds like you decided to offer both.
and it's because what we try to do then is we use the volume business as a, let's call it a farm team, right? So we do those 500 to 700 and we try to do a good job for them. And then throughout the year, we market to them to grow them into our Magic of Santa experience. So that's been, this year we had probably, last year was our first year to do the volume. And this year we had 10 or 15 new clients that we gathered strictly because of the relationship that we did with the Magic of Santa. So, so that's
it's money and marketing combined.
Absolutely. Yes.
I love it. Do you do other kinds of magic portraits for people?
Well, I mean, depending on how you define magic, I was mostly known years ago in print competition with PPA as doing kind of complex composites and the artist category and things like that. And so we still do a lot of that. We've got some really great clients that come to us for some unique custom pieces that we do. We've embraced AI. A lot of photographers have not. We said, well, how can we use AI to elevate what we do to make it even better? And so we've done that. So we'll create some really unique pieces where we photograph the client in studio, and then we use AI to help guide us down a path, no different than using stock images. It's just I'm in more control, believe it or not, using the AI to get a little bit what I want. And then you edit that image and create magic for whether it's a high school senior or a little girl that wants to be a princess with a castle, those type of things.
Right.
Yep.
Now, my understanding is with PPA, any image that uses AI at all cannot be entered in print competition because those images AI has pulled without copyright permission.
Yeah, that's a big discussion, and that's a big debate that has yet to be solved. But if you talk to some of the people who really know, let's say in PPA, somebody like Scott Detweiler, or you really do the research, there's not a copyright. You can't show me an AI image that's been created and say, look, that's where they got that look. They got it from that piece right there. It's much bigger than that. It's learned. Just like if I learn what a windmill looks like and I go draw a windmill, someone's going to say, oh, well, you copyrighted the violation of the windmill that's sitting on that land over there because you drew something that looks like it. That I didn't. That's not a copyright violation. So
but if you
but as far as print competition goes, yes and no. There's print competition, and PPA has really changed a lot in the last year. So you have IPC, which is your true print competition. And then you have the MIR, the Merit Image Review, which is strictly to enter your images so that you can get your merits, so that you can earn your degree. And I haven't checked lately, but I'm pretty certain that the open rules stay in the MIR where you're working to get your degree. You can use something you didn't create as long as you show a thumbnail of it on the submission that says, hey, I didn't create this, but here's the total piece. In IPC, you can't even use stock photography. You can't use anything that you didn't create. So I and the IPC is not about merits. It's not about degrees. It's about money, and it's about images comparing head to head. And since this podcast comes out after imaging in the IPC, the image of the little boy that you see here is one of my top award-winning images this year, and it won Best Portrait of a Child in Texas and Georgia, and it is in the final 32 at IPC.
What does IPC stand for people that
International Print Competition? So it's in the final 32. The live judging takes place at imaging this year, and who knows? It may be the 32nd best image. I don't know. But it's a very different print competition because it's head to head. It's not about the score. It's not about anything. They will take this image that you see here and they will show the judges another image, and it simply comes down to which image does the judge like better.
Got it.
It was already judged and scored and picked apart, and then the top 32 move on to Imaging USA, where they're judged in a true competition.
Got it. What
Yep.
I love, so the image, if people are listening to the podcast, is a sweet boy, maybe 7-ish,
Yep, 7 or
in
8.
a very simple brown and beige outfit with a little cap and a chair. So
Yep.
what I love about that, Chris, is that something that isn't created, what am I trying to say? I love that a good, clean, beautiful portrait without extra bells and whistles and designs and composites and fairy
Yep.
wings and sparkles or dragons or whatever can score really well still.
And I'll expand on that is and early in my print competition career, which I've only been doing now 4.5 years. So I had a goal. I had a goal about 4.5, 5 years ago to get to go all in. I almost left the industry when I was just burned out in my editorial world where I shot editorial photography. And so it was 4 or 5 years ago that I went all in and said, you know what, I want to get my degrees. So in 3 years, 3 print competitions, I got my master artist and my master photography degree.
Wow.
So I've only been entering print competition now for, I think, 5 years. So the first 3 years, I was very much known for these complex composites and art pieces, overly photoshopped. And I don't know, I probably should use the word overly. I don't know that you can over Photoshop an image. That's an artist's choice. So I think it's unfair to criticize something or say it's overdone. That's an artist's choice. But my images were very complex. And about 2 years ago, I started working with maybe longer than that. 3.5 years ago, I was working with a mentor, and he helped me take those types of pieces, the complex ones, and understand what I needed to do to make them great, not just for print competition, but I then learned how to take that technique and use it for my clients. So my sales went up.
Mm-hmm.
But then about 2 years ago, I was so impressed with two artists. And if they've not been on your podcast, shame on you, Lucy, because they're fantastic. Shannon Squire-Tays and Amber Demore.
Okay.
And what I loved about these two ladies, I still do, is a lot of the pieces they entered, a lot of pieces they did were very simple. They were very clean. They were just a great portrait. And so about 2 years ago, I told myself, you know what? I'm going to take a step back from creating these crazy composites and things like that. I want to test myself. Can I have an image that wins a major award that is a very simple old masters style image? And I love the old masters style. And honestly, my Santa and my old masters, and we call it, we have Magic Maker Studio, we have Magic of Santa brand, but we also have the Master Series by Chris Fritchie.
Oh.
So when clients come in, they can purchase like this image here. We will create one from our Master Series. So it's not branded the studio. It's because I shoot it, I edit it, I print it, I embellish it. So we'll put brush strokes on it and that type of thing. And then we register it with an fine art registry or an art registry so that image can basically live on forever. So that was something that was near and dear to my heart that I really wanted to test my skill set. Could I do something that wasn't trickery? And I don't mean trickery in a negative way. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. So I love hearing that, because one of the reasons I just did not get back into print competition when the whole digital artistry hit is that I found it difficult to compete with people who spent more time refining images and combining images and, people that I absolutely love their work.
Yep.
And they were getting hundreds, and a classic portrait was getting an 81. And I just am just so happy to see that I love that story. And then I just happened to ask you about that. And it actually came from a place where you made a decision to work on the classic
Yes.
portrait. The person that I think if you do you know Tim Kelly?
The name rings a bell, but if I went and looked on Facebook and see if we're friends, that's how I would know if I know him or not.
Okay, yeah. So he's been around for decades, and he's the person that probably your favorite people that you mentioned, I'm guessing, would know. He's like the shoulders you're standing on,
Okay.
but you don't know it.
Right.
Because he's been around as long as I have, 40 plus years. He's in Florida, and he has had a career of doing beautiful classic, but with a modern twist.
Mhm.
And he went from the old dark painted backgrounds of Phil Cheris. If you haven't heard that name, you might want to look him up, where it looked like paintings from museums, and then he lightened it up, but still the principles are the same. They're you're more drawn to the subject than the magic, which it's all good. It's all
Sure.
good.
I agree.
I love that you're exploring where some people start. You're you're expanding. Another the Waldens. Do you know the Waldens?
I know of them. Yes.
Yes. So they launched this classic black and white, like with emotion, but simple, about 20 years ago, and brought a lot of people back to just darn good portraiture without a lot of bells and whistles. So it's all, there's a place for all of it. And they found that when they transitioned, they could charge like 3 times what they did for sort of typical children's portraits.
Yes.
And it's marketing too, because
Absolutely.
you could charge, this could be your bread and butter, and then you could charge $1 zillion for the magical ones. Just, it's all a choice, I would say.
Yes. No, absolutely. Another artist that comes to mind that's maybe a little more modern, Sigmund Taylor. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they do a lot of classic, beautiful things like that. So they would be a good person to have on your podcast. I wouldn't say we're really friends with them. I've seen them speak once, and I love some of their content. But I know that they embrace that a little bit of that classic style, that elegant style, and they're good business people too. So
yeah, and that I love that on my show, to have the variety. Okay, I have other questions for you. I don't want to run completely out of time.
Yeah, I'm good.
So I know that sales is your superpower. So
yeah, Lori, why don't you join us while we talk? Because Lori actually does all of our physical sales. And I think when you talk about sales, she's the one who takes the credit card payment, if you want to look at sales that way. But
okay, I'm going to pause and let her jump in. We'll be right back after a brief pause. All right, so we now have the lovely Lori joining the conversation, and what a great smile you have.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's probably what hooked him in, right?
It was that in her eyes.
So you're the sales queen.
I'm just trying to get the camera to reset for those that can see. It's got a soft.
Looks fine to me. Nice and sharp. But now you're off center.
Yeah, there we go.
Can you center the two of you?
Yeah, let me see if I can. Let's pause.
I'm gonna pause again. All right, so thanks for your patience, everyone, with that little bit of back and forth. So Miss Lori, they say that in Texas, right? So you're the queen of sales in this world. So starting with the Santa luxury experience, can you tell me how you do your sales, what they purchase, all that good stuff? I mean, I know that could be a whole day's conversation.
No, it is, but it all starts with. I mean, it really does start in the camera room with Chris, because he's already building a really strong connection. with them. I try to kind of float in and out, but I don't always see the client until they show up in my sales room. So, but when they get there, I try to make, if I haven't had a time to meet them, I really try to get to know them a little bit. I want to ask about their kids, how old they are, if they had a good time. I kind of reminisce about what they did in the sales room, or excuse me, what they did in the shooting room with Chris, because that brings back all their memories and it brings back all that excitement. And then they tell me, it never fails. They tell me about how their kids won't stop talking about being on the naughty list, or, that Chris is naughty. And I like to play up that one a lot because he is naughty. So, we go through that whole thing, and it helps really bring that back to the forefront of their mind.
Sure.
Which I think it really helps me build a connection with them, and helps it just carry over from their experience. Cause it's usually been a couple days since they've been in with Chris and Santa. So, it helps me pull them in. We start looking at their images, and, then we just kind of go through building the important part to me is me building a connection where now not only do they feel safe with Chris, but they feel safe with me. Mm-hmm. And I always stress to them that I'm here to help them find what fits their family, not what I think they need to have, but what fits their family, because every family in every situation is different and everybody has different needs. So I'm not here just to push a number of images on them. I really want to enhance what they did in the shooting room with Chris.
Lucy, and that ties back to when I talked about us having a skit or a play or a Broadway show or whatever that we're doing, because there's consistency with that. When she goes, I never put her in a position in the sales room where she doesn't know what happened during that sales session.
We have someone at the door.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry, hang on. Someone's at the door. So
I'm going to pause a sec. Okay, so she answered the door, and now she's back. Everybody's got to follow along. So you were saying something that I have a little question about. And there's probably not a straight, simple answer to this, but you said you meet the client's needs, and not everybody's needs are the same. Mm-hmm. And I personally think that I know better what their needs are, which is I know they need wall portraits, and I know they need albums. And I work on creating the want, because I know in the course of their lifetime, and then hopefully their children and their children's children, they need these lifetime treasures. So what would be, when you say you try to meet your client's needs, like what's your response to? So I guess I'm asking, or I'm supposing that you're putting it out there as if you're serving their needs, but as the professional, what has the highest value. And does that make sense? Like,
absolutely. So it's like when you're teaching, you want to meet your students at where they are. If I've got some families that have come to us and they've only done a 5-minute session in our volume business. And so they are coming in at a completely different level than someone who's come to us before and done one of our heirloom pieces. So they have different expectations coming in. Sure. And I want to make sure that they realize that most important at the end of the day, we want them to be happy, and we want them to have images of their children and themselves that they can, that they'll have in their home forever. Some people have come to us and they've never had a professional shoot at all. So this may be the first time they've been in front of a camera so even if the only thing they can afford is a small portrait, it's their gateway to the next level. So not everybody's going to want to come in at an heirloom level, because that may be completely out of they can't even comprehend someone having that in their home. Okay. But so we have to meet them where they are, so that way we don't scare them away. I want them to feel comfortable. I don't want them to feel like I'm a used car salesman. I want them to feel that I have their
trust.
Their trust.
Right. Yeah. So I guess I'm specifically asking about sales of the high end
Mhm.
how you show it to them.
Yep.
I love what you're saying, and that makes a lot of sense. So I'd like to know your system, like the nuts and bolts of how you sit down with them, how they order, what most people
Absolutely.
do order.
We have different levels on our in our pricing sheet where we've
Well, hang on, so-
created some discounts in there.
Let me kind of
Okay,
start.
Go ahead.
Let me start with this because I
I'm
put
asking
the
about the luxury experience for your high-end clients.
Yeah,
How
so-
do you show the work, first of all.
right. So we have a sales room. We do 100% in-person sales. Every now and then you have to do a Zoom one, and that's okay. But the way we have it displayed is we have all of our high-end items are right there displayed where they can look at them. And then the
Okay.
other thing that Lori did that was one of the smartest things, it was something I never thought of. It was really brilliant of what she did. Our goal is to sell every client an album. And we've got different tiers of album. They can get into an album at $1,500. They can go up to about $5,500 in the album options. She took our price book and she made it an album. And so when someone comes in and once she gets to the discussion on pricing, which happens about halfway into the sales session, she hands them that album. So as they're following along with her and looking at it, starting to discover the pricing and what options they may want, they're holding an album. So when they start talking about albums, that's when they realize this heavy, beautiful piece that they've been looking at and holding and flipping pages on is a gorgeous
Yeah.
album.
Oh, that's
So
good.
that is the used car salesman trick. If we wanted to go down that path.
Get in and drive it. Feel
Get
the
in and
leather.
drive it. The first thing you do when you go to a car salesman or a furniture salesman or any place that is selling, let's say, medium to high end goods, is they want you to touch and feel that product so you can connect with it.
Sure.
Lori gets them to connect with it really quick into the session. So
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm handing on products all the way through so they can feel it and touch it, and which is one reason we don't like to do a Zoom because you can't feel and touch those items.
Right.
I know that when I go to the store, I want to touch everything. Chris laughs at me because I'm always touching and feeling on everything. But I
it
think
drove me crazy during
I think it's
COVID,
important.
first part of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
The grocery store together, she's touching everything. And
Like,
I'd yell at her, "Stop it! You're going to kill us!"
But
You know?
you have to
Right.
be able to feel what it, I'm always smelling the albums, which I look like a weirdo. I'm holding up the album and smelling it.
You shouldn't tell
it's-
people those things.
No, but it's important. I need them to smell the leather and I need them to feel the thick pages. And, we've got some wood panels that we order that are very popular and I hand it to them because I want them to feel the weight of it. So
Right.
it's very important. I want them up and walking around the sales room and asking questions.
Okay. Got it. So are you showing them projected? Are you showing them
Yes.
on a computer? How
Yep.
do
We
they see
have-
the art?
We actually we use InView to go through our
Yep.
sales session, and so
Okay.
we upload all
Is
their
that on a
images.
projector?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it's on a projector.
It's about 110-inch projector. I'm not sure.
So you show it big.
Yes.
Yep, it's a big one. So this is in the past we've always had used televisions, but now we have a projector, which I like for the most part, and they're really big. So we go through and we narrow things down, and I'm able to put them on a wall in view. I can use the room view, so that way they can see it on their walls. If they're not sure what size they might want, we can look for different things.
But I think one of the things Lucy's alluding to that you may not realize, and Lucy may not even realize it, on how we get that client to spend that high-end item is during the session. And that's where Lori talked about how it starts with me. So really it starts with, we do 18 to 22, 23 different activities during that 45 minutes. So when Lori gets in there and she's going over the images, well, the images and the activities that we do are designed to be in an album. Once you move that camera. So when we're doing the session, we have deliberately made it difficult for clients to come in and tell them there's certain images they don't want, because when they do a storybook, no, honey, no, that doesn't help. Okay, sorry. Work with your spouse. I'm going to. Okay. Work with your spouse, they said. So this is the key page when we start. I got the wrong one. This one doesn't have it in there. That's a sample that was a mess up. Let me have this one. So what Lori does, so as we shoot these sessions, we have these different activities. And Lori shows them this page here. See if you can see us. What you see here on this page are the letters to Santa that we have the kids write.
Ah,
And it has their name and their age and things like that. And then as you flip through the album, and I'll just throw into a couple of pages, you're going to see all of these different activities that take place. And Lori goes through and helps them pick out 1 or 2 images from each activity. So now that they've picked out these 18 to 25 favorite images, well, there's no way they're not going to buy 18 to 25 wall portraits. So what are they going to have to buy?
right.
They're going to have to buy an album.
Right. Right.
So the way we design the session, the sale almost takes care of itself.
Yeah, I get it. How could you not want the book?
How could you not want a book
That's
with
brilliant.
the kids' letter to Santa in it, and with all of these stories? Which one do you want to delete? Do you want to delete the image where they find your name on the naughty list? Do you want to delete the image that they saved Christmas? Do you want to delete the image where they're praying with Santa? Right. So
Right.
if you run your business properly, the sales sessions take care of themselves,
Right.
or it sets you up for a successful sales session.
Right.
And
Now-
that goes back to my days at Pitney Bowes as a sales manager. If
Mm,
we did everything right, when we get down to the time where we're going to ask the client for money, they're already asking us, well, how do we pay for this?
mm. I love it.
Right.
So,
I hope that makes sense.
We've already alleviated any questions I had up till they got to that
Right.
point.
Right.
So
and you have, like, my goal is always selling wall art.
Yep.
And yours is the book, which to me would answer some of the challenges if somebody said, well, I'd like to do this every year, but I don't want my whole house taken up with Santa portraits. And you're like, hey, let's do a book. And then sure, maybe have the one have a special place, and the next year you can replace it and save that one for when they have their own home, but it
Right.
handles
Yeah, we've
that
had-
objection
we've
type
had
of
several
it.
people that have come. We've got at least a handful of clients that have come for us for this was their 9th year.
Yeah. So
So-
with the albums, I think that's very important, Lucy, to mention, is one of the things we started doing 5 or 6 years ago. So each year we do a limited edition album, and the design is different.
Ah,
So those clients that are repeat clients, they want the limited edition, and we won't put the kids' names or any words in the less expensive album. So if you want the story, the custom story that's in there, and your kids' names in the book, then you have to do a limited edition. But how we overcome, well, I've already got one that looks like, well, no, you don't, because this book looks completely different than the one you got last year.
got it.
It's the same story, a lot of the same poses. The sets change a little bit, sometimes a lot. But we have so many clients that they have a collection of these albums.
Right.
And what's really cool is next year's the first year we're going to offer this, and it's our 10th year. We're going to offer a legacy album for those families that have been coming for years and their kids are starting to age out.
Mhm.
So it's probably the last year they'll be with us for Santa. We've got, I know that say, what's her name up here on the wall?
McFarland?
Yes, Sarah's kid, McKinley. Next year will probably be her last year. She'll be 12 or 13, and she goes back to year 2015 with us. So there's no doubt that what we will do, because we save all those images, we're going to create a very high-end, very unique legacy album where we will go back and put in images from every single year so we can see that child growing up with Santa.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I would think you need to sell 2 so that she has one to take with her to college, but mom
Right.
has to keep her copy.
Well, and
walk
don't
on
forget
the-
about grandma and grandpa.
Oh,
So
of course.
we're going to need at least 4 albums.
Yes, but I'm saying with the legacy, that is the no-brainer to be sure.
Absolutely. And
to
that
do.
would, and that also, whenever we're selling our different albums and we're in the sales session, we also have some collections that we kind of hold back that we don't put
Right.
online. And
I
those-
call it our in and out menu.
Yeah, it's our hidden menu. So
One
those
sec,
always
One
include-
sec. Okay, this is kind of today like Mr. Toad's wild ride for the video. All of our interruptions and
Yeah,
just
that's okay.
enjoy
It's
it.
fun.
If you're watching it, just enjoy it. Okay, so we are just about out of time, and I know that something that you want to share? I'm hoping you can explain this new thing in a nutshell. And
Yeah, it's tough to share in a nutshell, and I know what you're talking about because we talked about it a little bit earlier.
yes. So
Yeah, so
you've got a new project.
I wouldn't say I have one. I'm part of
The
I'm part
global
of a project. Yeah.
You and colleagues have a new
Yes.
project that is potentially a revolutionary
Yep.
opportunity for photographers and photographers' clients.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. What is that?
Okay. So let me tell you how it came about real quick, and I think I can say it real short. As you can see, we're passionate about what we do, whether it's albums or wall portraits with our Santa clients. And my fear, my legacy has been that, what happens, and we've had it happen with family members. We've had clients that have lost all their photographs, whether it be a tornado or fire or flood or something, they've lost everything. And so one of the things that's important to me, and we tell families about this when they put their wall portrait up on the wall, you're going to put this wall portrait up every year for Christmas for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Well, what happens if that gets damaged or destroyed and we're long gone? I'm not getting any younger. So what happens if that beautiful wall portrait we created from them is destroyed? It's gone forever. So think about, Lucy, some of your most beautiful images you've ever created for clients, and their beautiful family portrait they just love that has grandma in it or somebody that's passed away, or even worse. I mean, we're dealing with this today. One of Lori's colleagues, their son passed away, and so what about those portraits that were created for them?
Right.
So that really hit home with us. So we had some discussions with some colleagues and stuff, and so to make a long story short, we are so thrilled to be an ambassador and have a small part in a new organization that's launching in 2024 called the International Photographic Arts Collective. And in real simple, it does three things. It gives a place where you can register your work for a client, and it has a certificate of authenticity, a serial number, and it is registered in basically a digital museum is one way to think of it. And on the back of the piece is a certificate, and the client gets a folder that has a certificate in it that they can put in their safe, they can put with their will, they can put it in a place where it will never, a fire safe or something like that. So that if that piece is ever damaged, the second element of the International Photographic Arts Collective, known as the IPAC, is 25 years from now, they'll take that serial number, they'll go online, and they can get that piece recreated. So if it's ever lost or damaged, if a Santa album is ever lost or damaged, they can get it recreated. And then third element is what I love for my legacy is once I'm long gone, I'm not going to keep my website up. I'm not going to keep my Facebook page up. Those are all going to be gone. But photographic artists can join this association, and they will have their own bio page that will basically live forever with the works that they've registered and things like that. So it's a really, really unique place where artists work, the clients that they serve, the work that they charge them for. I know there are photographers that charge $20,000 or $30,000 for a beautiful piece of custom art. Well, what happens if that art's damaged and that photographer is long gone or that artist is long gone? So that's all a big part of it. There's lots of other elements, education, print competitions, things like that. But I'm excited to be part of a way that us as photographic artists can have our legacy live forever, and how we can protect the investment that our clients have long after we're gone.
I think that is an incredible idea. Now, my first question, how does the Photographic Arts Collective continue on forever?
Sure. Yeah, because there's a fee to join. There is a monthly fee for active members. Basically, an active member means that you can participate in various different things, and we can reach out to that photographer, or another client may come along that loves, say, our Santa work, and they discover this, and they can reach out and connect with that artist to commission them for a piece. But 25%, yeah. So there's a way that this can market. So Lucy,
okay, my question was about how do I know that
forever?
50 years from now that International Photo Collective website is still going to be active?
Because 25% of all the revenue goes into a trust. And we have an advisory board that is on here that some are industry professionals, some are outside the industry. And so there's a trust put in place to manage that so that it lives on forever. Our goal is in 5 years to turn this into a nonprofit.
Mm.
Is the goal of the those of us that are behind creating it. Is they're really not in it to make money. That it wasn't set up as a business, but it's designed so that we believe within year 3, there'll be enough revenue that this will take care of itself forever with the way the back end side is designed to support itself.
I love it. I love it.
Yep.
Because I have half a garage full of negatives because I just could not bear
Right.
the potential that somebody would call and say, do you still have my negatives? And to say,
That's my biggest fear. And thank God it's never happened, but I fear that day I get a call that maybe a high school senior that I photographed was tragically lost.
yep.
And I said, oh, well, I didn't keep those images, or I don't have them, or something like that.
Right.
So this is a tool that we feel photographers are going to embrace so that they can provide something to their clients that no one else is providing. There's no place this exists.
Right. When I can see how it also could be a powerful marketing tool.
Oh, 100%. We've had tremendous sales. The last year and a half that this has been building, we're the guinea pigs. And so we've been trying it out on our clients. And we've had clients come in that were planning on spending, $300 or $400, and it ended up spending $4,000 or $5,000 to do our master series to create a legacy type of art piece. And what sold them on getting this done was that they knew that it was going to live forever. Because this element is really, really important, because when we create the certificate of authenticity and we register the image, when you go to that website and you look at the image, there's the whole story behind the image is there. So obviously the client gets to decide what information is there. We protect their information, but they get to tell the story of that Santa session or that fine art piece that was created and how old the child was and anything they want to talk about, so that in 50 years, when that little girl is a grandparent and her grandkids find that portrait in an attic and go, what is this? Well, now they can simply go to the back of that image and go to that website and look at that serial number, and all the information will come up about that portrait.
Wow. And I'm sure if someone's considering, why should I use you instead of
Yes,
their service, it can say, here's one of the things that's available. We're not doing quick photographs that you're going to enjoy today and then forget about tomorrow. We're about the legacy. We're about preserving.
the tagline is capture today, preserve for tomorrow.
Ooh, I love it. I love it.
Yep.
So I would like to know, if someone wanted to contact you, what is the best way to reach out to you?
Well, for us in our studio, it's magicmakerstudio.com is the best way to find us. And if I think by the time you and I talked a little bit when this podcast comes out, if they're interested in the IPAC, they go to the ipac.org. But by the time this comes out, because we've already been in discussions with some of the top photographers in the country to have them on board, and that's kind of where we are right now, is sharing this with a very few select artists that we know have the commitment that say we do, and some of the others to preserve their art, of getting them on board. And so far it's been overwhelming.
Great.
At how excited they are when they find out about this.
Okay, so I'm gonna translate his Texas accent. Magic makers, not magic makers. Magicmakersstudio.com, and then the IPAC, THEIPAC.org.
That's correct.
Are two easy ways, and that will be in the show notes. So thank you guys so much. I want to give you just one opportunity to share either an inspirational last thought or one short thing that you didn't cover that you might think, oh, I wish I had given him this tip or something like that. So what do you got for us?
Well, probably the one thing sitting here thrown on the spot is probably a discussion that I have with more with our volume Santa clients than I do with our others, because the volume Santa clients bring the kids in and they throw them on Santa's lap and they're in and out in 2 or 3 minutes. And I told my staff this year, I said, look, you have to promise me you're going to do this to every family, because it's something that is near and dear to my heart. I have very few portraits of my dad. I was actually adopted twice. I've had 2 first names, 3 last names, but the father that raised me, I have maybe 1 or 2 pictures of me and him together. So I basically demand the photographers that shoot our volume business to say, hey, mom, dad, need you to get in the portrait. Oh, I'm not, whatever. And I say, look, in 20 years, your kids are not going to care what your hair looked like or if you were overweight or anything. They're going to want a portrait or at least a picture with you in it with them. And so I would encourage photographers to learn how to talk to their clients, because so many of the moms and dads just want to do it with the kids, just with the kids. And you have to encourage them, look, just get in one picture. You don't have to buy it. You can delete it, whatever. And that's, from me, that's why I'm in this, to preserve those type of things. So, you know, we've got,
agree with that.
that's the one thing that I would challenge photographers to communicate to their clients that I know doesn't get communicated.
Absolutely. I'm all in on that. So, well, thank you guys so much. It's just been a joy. And I'm even more bummed now that I am most likely not going to imaging, because I developed a little bit of a knee problem.
Well, come see us at Shutterfest or Texas School or some of these other places. So
Yeah. Come to San Diego, teach at West Coast School.
I'd love to teach at West Coast School. We taught 2 years ago at San Diego. We did a Santa session or a Magic of Santa workshop in San Diego. And I'd love to teach at West Coast School. Yeah.
Or maybe I can talk my people, my local chapter, and having you guys come out.
Well, you know, I'd love to do that, especially with the IPAC. That's one of the things that we will be pushing hard this year, is to get in front of the local guilds and share with them what that is.
Great. So I'll anyway, thank you. And this relationship is only beginning. So look forward to more.
Awesome. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
I'm back after having a little even more conversation, and aren't they just the nicest people? I'm even more sad that I'm not going to be able to attend, but you don't need to know all that. So I just loved, just a really quick wrap up, that they create an experience that is like magic when they do Santa sessions. And it starts with almost like little skits that they do, rather than just, okay, sit on Santa's lap, which is great as well. But they want, and they, you know, the heart of what they do with their Santa portrait sessions is a memorable experience. And let's see, what other, and they guide everything to the point where during the sales session, people are pretty much already ready to invest. So I love that. What else? And that new International Photographic Arts Collective, that's like an online museum. I think that is a very interesting idea. So I guess that's it for now. And I love to hear what you've gotten out of this and any other of the podcasts. So thank you for joining me, and until next time, bye.
You have been listening to The Highly Profitable Photographer with Lucy Dumas. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please rate, subscribe, review, and share. To connect one-on-one and learn more about our coaching programs, just go to lucydumascoaching.com. Until next time, go have fun photographing and selling your work.